A is for Adam, Chapter 13. What's wrong with these kids today? Cain was born a little prematurely, so his birth weight was less than 4 pounds. However, his size was a poor predictor of his temperament, as he had the bad attitude of a rhinoceros charging down a runway full of wounded peacocks. God said it would happen, and it did. Not only could the little bastard not take care of himself, he was worthless. He had no worth. He was a total waste of space. A little space, true, but a waste nonetheless. He never ate his vegetables. He ran around the house all crazy, tracking mud outdoors, vivisected defenceless animals while they were still alive, and he would always knock pictures off the wall. What a little asshole. Fuck. Phew! I apologise for my language, but wow, what a prick. You know, Adam began, I was thinking... Ow! Sorry, honey, you had a really big eyebrow hair that was bugging the hell out of me. You couldn't have waited. I was thinking. Yeah, but look at this, she said, and showed him the hair she'd just plucked. What the... Looks like a twig, she said. I know. Looks like the same thing we've been finding growing out of our ears lately. What do you think's going on? I don't know. Must be the desert heat making our hair grow thicker or something. Don't you think the opposite should happen? Shouldn't our hair grow thinner instead? Careful, Adam. You're treading too close to natural selection territory. Anyway, as I was saying, I was thinking. I may have a way we can get back into God's good graces and get back into Eden. Why? Do you not like it here? Ha ha, she said sarcastically. Ha ha, as fun as this is, I want Eden back. He looked around as if someone else were listening. I mean, I would like to get right with the Lord, he said, then whispered to Eve, I really want Eden back. Okay, so what's your plan? She asked. I think we should really show him just how sorry we are. Let's jump in the river. Not now, Adam. Tell me what your penance idea is. We should jump in the river. Fine, but then will you tell me what your idea of penance is? That's it. We get in the river. That's the punishment. How is that punishment? We'll stay there for 47 days. Why 47? She asked. Why not 47? I would hang out in a river for 1,000 days. I am so tired of this heat, it'll be a welcome relief. But still don't see how that's penance. Don't you? We'll get all pruny. But where do we find a river around here? She asked. That's the good news. There's one closer than we thought. The Tigris is only a couple of days' trek away. The Tigris? Isn't that like icy cold? It's a little chilly, yeah. But this is penance. Get it now? Jeez, I guess so now. We'll die before the first hour's up. Maybe, but look at it this way. Water problem is solved. Great. Where did you come up with this idea? I had a vision. You had a vision? Well, that's nice. Did your vision include you dying of hypothermia? Well, see, that's the thing. I'll be in another river. What? Another river? Why another river? It's just, I think part of our penance should be spending time away from each other. Solitude, you know. Nobody enjoys being alone. I think it'll make for lots of brownie points with the big guy. Fine. Where are you going to go? Euphrates? Jordan, he answered. Jordan, blurted Eve. Jordan! Are you kidding me? What? He asked. I suppose you're going to go to one of those all-inclusive resorts, going to lounge by the pool and drink some daiquiris. What are you talking about? Asked Adam. I'm immersing myself in the river for 47 days, just like you. Oh, poor you, bathing in room-temperature waters where I'm freezing my butt off. That's nice. Listen, it's not going to be a picnic for me either. I have to walk for weeks through the desert to get there. Her eyebrows arched, causing a twig ear to go spring. Well, okay, I'm hitching a ride on Phil Collins, Adam confessed. You'll be sitting on Phil Collins the whole way through the desert. You'll break him. How does he feel about this? I'm on my way. I'm making it, Phil sang. See, he's on his way. He's making it, Adam added. That's a new song for you, Phil. Where did you learn this little ditty? A little angel named Gabriel, he asked. See, I'll be okay. You'll be okay. I'll be freezing my ass off, she reminded him. Fine then, you know what? You only have to stay there for 40 days. How's that? I'll stay in my river for 47. You stay for 40. What do we do about that little asshole? Eve asked. Cain. Leave him. That's another side bonus. A vacation from him for a month. What do you think about that? He asked. Which way's the river? It took a couple of days for Eve to make the trek across the desert to the Tigris. With every other step she cursed Adam's name. As she sat by the bank of the icy river, dipping her toe in the water, she cursed his name loudly, screamed it, in fact. She knew the water would be cold, but the actual feel of it on her skin brought a whole new meaning to the word. Oh, Adam, why did I let you talk me into this? She asked. Curse you, Adam, and curse your name. She shouted into the sky, which caused a dozen birds that had been lounging along the river to fly directly up, and a bright white beam of light to shine down. Huh? Asked Eve dumbly, as out of the bright light there appeared a beautiful figure. An angel, most would have thought. And yes, it was an angel, but this angel had a mean streak and a penchant for mischief. Because of the knowledge she had gained from eating the fruits, she knew right away that this was Satan himself. He approached her slowly, with gentility and grace, and placed a hand on her shoulder. Dear child, he said, you don't have to do this. What do you mean? Asked Eve. Of course I do. Why? Asked Satan. Because Adam said so. Well, yeah, I guess. He's the man of the house, after all. Man of the house, Satan said. Would a man make his woman spend 40 days in freezing cold water while he lives in luxury in the golden waters of the Jordan? Well, would a man not invite his wife to come join him in those golden waters, rather than send her away? Or at the very least, would a man not come join his wife in the icy waters, rather than forcing her to endure the pain alone? You have a point. Yes, of course I have a point. He's making you do the penance while he does nothing. It won't work. God won't forgive either of you this way. His was a dumb idea. Perhaps, she said. But how do you know God won't forgive me, at least? Because, Satan said with a smile, God doesn't forgive. He banished you to here because you ate a fruit. One that you had no idea how good or bad it was because you hadn't eaten the fruit yet. Does that make sense? No, I suppose not. And get this, God told me I had to worship Adam. Not sure what that's all about. I asked God, isn't it enough to worship you? I have to worship this guy too. He's just a person and doesn't need to be worshipped. And what did God say? He said Adam was made in his image, an extension of God himself. I then asked him, wouldn't that be worshipping a false idol? Isn't that a sin? What did God say? He told me to quit arguing and get out of his face. So here I am. God kicked you out of heaven, apparently. For how long? I don't know. For good, I guess. Is there nothing you can do to get back? She asked. I don't know, but it's sure as hell isn't standing in this cold river. God doesn't care about that. I don't want to go back anyway. Where will you go? She asked. You can't stay on earth. You'll lose your angel status. There's a place that's far sweeter than heaven, and it's down below. You mean hell? It's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be. Besides, as soon as I enter Hell's Gates, the place will be that much cooler. Everyone already likes me down there. He looked at his watch. Listen, I gotta go. Just remember what I said about Adam. He ain't shit. Look at the child he gave you. If he was so great, don't you think he could have produced something better than that Cain kid? Anyway, do what you want. It's your life. I just wouldn't stay in that river if I were you. Laters. And just as quickly as he came, he was gone. That's it, thought Eve. I'm packing up and going home. Meanwhile, on the left bank, Adam sat on the edge of the river in a lounge chair, daiquiri in hand. Okay, maybe he wasn't actually in the river, but he was near the river, and he took occasional dips in the water any time he wanted to cool off a little, or do penance. He had gathered quite the audience of animals. Little birds and deer followed him around wherever he strolled. He felt like Jesus would feel in his heyday. None of this was natural. They were all instructed by God to follow him around and worship him. There wasn't one creature in the bunch that thought Adam was worth as much as a human. Never mind, an entity that needed to be worshipped. But what could they do but follow God's orders? They really hadn't any say in the matter. If they all did what God said, perhaps they would be in a better place when they died. It never occurred to any of them they had no souls, and they weren't going anywhere. "Get me another drink, will you, Phil?" Adam asked, as if goats had fingers. Boy, Phil would sure have used one of them right then. Phil poured him a drink from the blender as he took another dip in the Jordan. The water was so nice. It was fantastic here. Perhaps he could convince Eve to move out here with him. It sucked you to walk all the way back to Iraq to ask her, then turn around and walk all the way back here. It was then that Adam's relaxed mind had fallen asleep, dreaming about some future time when the telephone would be invented. Before he could drown, he was startled awake by 2 dolphins passing a beach ball back and forth. For a minute they debated letting him drown, since they didn't really care much for Adam, but they needed a human to throw the ball, and he would do in a pinch. "Oh, hey Chip, hey Dale, thanks for stopping by. Here you go," he said, and bopped the ball high in the air. Chip flicked the ball with his tail to Dale, who caught it on his nose, and they swam away. "Bye, guys," he shouted at them. 47 days had passed of this nonsense, and it was time to head home. All he could hope was God was witnessing what a sacrifice he was making, and that he would get back into his good graces. It would certainly be a shame if he— Holy fuck! What was that on his shoulder? It looked like a peeling flap of skin, but it had a dry, hard, brittle consistency. It almost resembled the bark of a tree. Skin shouldn't be like that. "Ouch!" he yelped as he plucked it off. It hurt doing that, and he watched for blood. There was no blood to follow. However, there was a clear fluid oozing from his shoulder that had the consistency of sap. Odd, he thought. Now where was I? Oh yeah. It would be a shame if he had walked all this way and endured all this punishment for nothing. To tell you the truth, he felt a little pampered by this time at the river. No kidding. And it would make the long, long walk back home all that more arduous. And it was. It was arduous, and strenuous, and taxing, and all those other synonyms. The heat, reflected by the desert sand and thrown back up into his face, was unbearable. 30-foot sand serpents burrowed in and out of the dunes all around him. Giant winged creatures swooped down out of the sky and ripped away at his flesh. It briefly occurred to him that maybe this was the punishment. But then he thought, no, the river was the punishment. It also briefly occurred to him he had very little concept of what punishment was. At times he wanted to give up, but the thought of returning to Eve was enough to keep him trudging on. At last he arrived home. Eve was relaxing on the couch, her feet up on the ottoman. Her time must have been worse than his. She looked dead tired. "Eve!" he exclaimed, rushing to her side to embrace her. "You made it home!" She nodded. "Pum-pum-pum. I did. I'm glad to see you are also back home." "Oh, sweetie," Adam said. "It was just terrible. The water was wet and the hot sun kept making the drinks warm, and Phil Collins could be a right prick at times. Anyway, enough about me. How was your time in the Tigris? It must have been just horrendous." "It was all right," she said. "All right? Care to elaborate?" "Not really," she said. She'd already made her mind up. She wouldn't tell him that she disobeyed him. It would not only make him angry, but it would surely destroy his ego. She would just let him cling to the idea that he was the head of the house, and that she would do what he expected of her, if he thought it was for the greater good. She would think of it as her contribution to the well-being of the family. "Fair enough," he answered. "Any word from God yet?" "Nothing," said Eve. "Do you think we did the right thing, Adam? Do you think the punishment was enough?" He sighed. "I don't know. I thought it was a good idea, but I assumed one of us would have heard from God right away. I was expecting visions while I was out there in the Jordan, but all I got was warm daiquiris. I have a feeling we're stuck here forever." "Oh, I don't know," Eve said. She thought back to her chat with Satan and how God wanted him to worship Adam. "I have a feeling you're in God's good graces." "I sure hope so," said Adam. "Now, where's my boy?" he said at too high a volume. "Shush! I just put him down to sleep. He's been a hell-raiser all day." "So he has survived his time alone, then?" "Yes, he did just fine," she answered. "Shit. Yeah." A familiar face peeked round the corner. Daddy! Ken exclaimed and ran to his father excitedly. There's my boy, he said, his arms wide open for a hug from his son. The boy ran up to his father, punched him square in the nuts, giggled and took off. Come back here, you little shit, he shouted. He turned to Eve. Did you see that little... I'm going to go teach him a lesson. No, don't, honey. He's been waiting all day for you to come home so he could do that. Just let him go back to sleep so we can get a little peace and quiet around here. You're right, he said. Ugh, Eve, what do we do about him? You know, she said, I've been thinking. What do you think about having another child? He couldn't shake his head fast enough. Nuh-uh, no way, no. Listen, just hear me out. Maybe this one will turn out better. We deserve a nice child, not one that goes around cauterizing the buttholes of little bunnies. Plus, she added, I think it would do Kane a lot of good to have a playmate. Maybe he just acts out because he's bored. I mean, we're the only other people in his world, and who wants to hang out with adults all the time? Come on, what do you say? Let's have another baby. And so Abel was born into the world. They called him Abel because we're hoping we'd have a little more aptitude than his brother when he was born. Alas, it was not true. He was born a blubbering mass of tissue, just like his brother. Although he was a lot more pleasant to be around, he was miles behind his brother in terms of overall brain capacity. He was a simple boy who'd never vivisected a desert rat like Cain, because he was gentle, yes, but also because he had no clue how to vivisect anything. In fact, he didn't know what vivisect meant. In fact, he didn't know any words over 2 syllables. The end. Don't forget to like and subscribe and press the wee bell notification. And a huge big thank you to all my subscribers and patrons. See you next week. Bye bye.